Welcome, everybody, to Tulsa, Oklahoma. We are live. It's July the 18th, 2025. Live from Tulsa, Oklahoma, Into the Fire, the number one true crime show of the several crime shows that are on KGRA Digital Broadcasting. I'm blessed to be here, and I look forward to Friday nights, each and every Friday night. And I'm glad to be here with everybody tonight. I'm so excited. We have got a legend in the house tonight, and that is Lenny DePaul, probably and arguably one of the most recognizable U.S. Marshals ever. And I'm talking ever. And I was kind of laughing with him saying probably Rooster Cogburn or Wyatt Earp is in the list, but then you got Lenny DePaul. And probably a lot of the younger generation doesn't even know who the other two people that I had even met. So super excited to have him here. He is somebody that I had on my short list to have on the podcast for a long, long time. I want to send out a birthday wish to Joan West, who is going to be 78 years old right around the corner. Joan West is from Milford, Nebraska, and her daughter had messaged me on one of the many social media things. I think it was Instagram. Yes, happy birthday, Joan. This is a surprise to her because she didn't know we were going to be mentioning it. And it's not her birthday tonight, but it's coming right around the corner. And her daughter said that she's about to be 78 and she is an absolute fan of the first 48. And of course, we appreciate that. And we appreciate all the people that tune into that show and send nice messages and on and on and on. It means a lot. And, Lenny's part of the A&E family from back in the day as well. So no doubt that he got a ton of messages along the way. I kind of chatted with him a little bit, and I have to tell you, and you're going to see this for yourself. If you've never seen him on TV, or if you've never seen him do a podcast or any of that, or speak, he does a lot of speaking. I think you're in for an absolute treat. He is one of those kind of people that is just you'll see why he was so successful. He's just got the ability to just deal with people, and it's just really something to see. And I think that you're really going to enjoy it. Let's talk a little bit about Lenny. Lenny DePaul, a native New Yorker, began his 34-year government career by joining the U.S. Navy, serving for 5 years of active duty. He then worked for the U.S. Secret Service for over 5 years before he transferred to the U.S. Marshal Service, where he retired as Chief Inspector/Commander after 24 years of hunting violent felony fugitives across the globe. As a former military law enforcement operator, Lenny's hands-on expertise, along with leading over 350 investigators from 92 different federal, state, and local agencies, makes him one of the most recognized, as I said earlier, and respected manhunters in the world. Lenny is also globally recognized as a TV news personality ever since 2009, when Manhunter's Fugitive Task Force aired for 3 seasons on A&E. Lenny has appeared in numerous TV series, documentaries, and news outlets, all where Lenny's criminal investigative expertise is utilized. Lenny has participated and coordinated a wide range of professional training for federal, state, and local law enforcement professionals, along with assisting and training the U.S. military special operations forces. Lenny is a law enforcement icon, reality TV star, and advisory board member for several foundations, to include the U.S. Marshal Museum in Fort Smith, Arkansas, where I have spoke. Awesome. He is passionate about his involvement with the criminal justice community, bringing authenticity to the world of television within the crime space. Also, with Lenny's wealth of knowledge and creative mind, he is an asset to any production team seeking his 18 years of filming experience and 3 decades of law enforcement expertise. The guy's a real legend. That bio is just scrapes the surface. This guy was on the protection detail for Ronald Reagan in the White House. Here is a guy that grew up in an incredibly small town in the middle of New York, which is Utica, New York. Let's welcome Lenny to the show. Lenny DePaul, thank you, buddy, for being here. It really is an honor. You're a consummate professional and a good person all the way around. I can tell.
First of all, you're too kind, Jason. Thank you for that wonderful introduction. That's probably the best introduction I think I've ever had. But look, looking forward to this. Thanks for having me on. Of course, I know you, and you're historically what you've done, and we're brothers from Jump Street here. So looking forward to having a conversation with you.
That's right. I'm really honored. Tonight's the first night I've met him in person. I know some mutual friends of his, and no doubt we're going to have a good time tonight. And let's just start off, man. You start your life out in Utica, New York, of all places, to elevate yourself. Tell me about how you ended up getting what the beginning of your life was like.
Well, it was an interesting life, actually, now that I look back at it. But Utica, New York, a small town in upstate New York, central New York, actually. I actually lived with my grandmother. I slept on a couch for about 7 years. I still got the spring marks on my back. But she was great. Sadly, she died in my arms when I was a teenager, and I really didn't have much direction. Loved football. I was a quarterback for 4 years at the high school up there, and played some baseball, basketball, whatever. So I was an athlete. But I did not look at any colleges. I ended up joining the Navy at the age of 17, and I'll never forget my first day in boot camp, Jason. They come screaming and yelling 6 o'clock in the morning. Everybody's nervous and shaking, and this master chief petty officer, rather, he comes up to me and he says, "Sir, you know what Navy stands for?" And I'm shaking. I'm, "No, sir." He says, "Never again volunteer yourself. Get down and give me 50 push-ups." Yeah. And as you know, they go on. But that was my welcome to the service. But 5 years active duty. I spent it all on the ocean. I was in an amphibious assault group. Was overseas for about a year and a half or so in the Philippines, home ported in Longpo City, and spent my whole career in the Navy on the West Coast. So California, San Diego, Long Beach, those areas.
Yeah, and it was no joke either, Lenny. I mean, you were actually training hard with a bunch of Marines that were known today as Navy SEALs.
Marine recons, Navy. It was on UDT, underwater demolition teams, Navy SEALs. Some pretty hardcore individuals, and thankfully they're on our side, if you know what I mean. So right. A good crew. I learned a lot in the service, and then I got out 5 years active. I'll never forget it. I got my sea bag over my shoulder. I'm walking down a pier in San Diego, and I turn around, looked at this huge ship, and I said, "Well, that was fun. Now what?" I had no idea what I was doing at that point.
So after the military, you get out, and then from there, what kind of a job did you get immediately after getting out of the military, which led you into the world of law enforcement?
I ended up working construction, actually, in the state of Maryland. A good friend of mine was down there. Long story short, I was doing a couple of different jobs. So I ended up doing siding, roofing, and whatnot. So I was at a fella's house. His name was Danny Cecere. He's responsible for my career. Great guy from Brooklyn, New York. He was an instructor at the Secret Service Academy, and we were putting in windows and a roof on his house. And we got into a great conversation, went back and forth. We just hit it off from Jump Street. And he said, "Well, you got a great background." And I said, "Well, what do you do if you don't mind me asking?" He said, "Well, I'm in the United States Secret Service." I said, "What's that?" He said, "Well, we do a variety of things for protection of the president and vice president and so on. And then we do credit card fraud, forgery back then, that lovely stuff." So I said, "Well, it sounds interesting, but I'm an uneducated military guy." I said, he said, "No, listen, the uniform division of the Secret Service, there's no prerequisite for a 4-year degree." He said, you should apply. I think you'd be perfect for the job." He said, "In fact, I'll help you along." So I went about a year and a half before I heard back from them. And they, I got a call, I'll never forget it, on a Thursday from the recruiters. And she said to me, "I got good news and I got bad news." I said, "Okay." She said, "Well, the good news is you got the job. The bad news is you start Monday." So I put the phone down for about 2 seconds and got back on and said, "Where do I go? What do I do?" So that's how I started with the Secret Service. Oh, I can't hear you.
There we go. Sorry, I had hit mute. Let me tell you why I did that. My 7-year-old grandson is at my feet, And so you could probably relate, Lenny. So
Yeah, that's right.
anyway, I had to mute it temporarily because I'm getting him removed for a minute. But anyway, so what happened was that you go to Glencoe, Georgia. When you go from Glencoe, Georgia, and they train you to was that for the U.S. the uniform patrol that you were getting trained there?
Yeah, Secret Service, right. They train at the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center in Glencoe, Georgia. And then the Secret Service Academy is in Beltsville, Maryland. So I went to Georgia for, I forget now, several weeks, and then back to Maryland through the Secret Service Academy. And then right out of the academy, yeah, they took a bunch of us, and I was assigned to the White House with President Reagan. And I was like, I'll never forget the graduation and whatnot. You're going to foreign missions. You're doing, and they sent, I think, about 10 of us. You're going to the White House, and God, here I am from upstate New York. I got nothing. And all of a sudden, I turn around. I'm at the White House in 1984 with President Reagan's second round that he had gone. I was actually there for the inaugural. So yeah, I spent about 3 years at the White House with the president, and I'll tell you some great stories there. I mean, President Reagan, being a Hollywood guy, and put the politics aside, what a great guy, so personable. I don't care if it was Gandhi, Gorbachev back then, Margaret Thatcher, they loved him. I mean, he walked into a room, he just glowed. And I would purposely put in for overtime when a state arrival came in. Had a state would come in the morning, they'd take care of business and whatnot. And then at night, he would have a state dinner. And he would invite who's who from showbiz, from Hollywood. And I would purposely put in for overtime to meet the Jimmy Stewarts and the Johnny Cashes. And there was one guy, and I'm going to pick your brain. Maureen Reagan, a family member, she's the only one that actually stayed in the White House. She actually stayed in the Lincoln bedroom. Everyone else did not. But there was one other person that had a family badge, a family pass to get into the White House, could come and go as he pleased. Who do you think that was?
Well, Lenny, I do my homework. I'm a detective.
Okay, so never mind. You know the answer.
but I'll tell you what, and he's talking about Frank Sinatra.
Yes.
Which how did you keep from just how do you keep from smiling at some of these people, or at least acknowledge them and ask them? Were you allowed to even speak to them, or was that prohibited?
No, sure. You were allowed. I wasn't one of those. I don't want to say it. I was not I like to have a conversation with people. I'm working one night, and I was in the East Colonnade. I'm not sure if you've ever been into the White House, but you come through the Visitor Center on the East Executive Avenue. You come through the East Colonnade, and he would host his parties in the state dining room, which is into the mansion. So I was on a post right at the end of the East Colonnade. The folks come through the metal detectors and whatnot. They walk to me, and then I allow them to go into the mansion, where the parties started. So who's walking up the East Colonnade? And I was a huge fan of All in the Family, if you remember Archie Bunker. Yeah. And who's coming up is Gene Stapleton, Edith Bunker. And I'm like, oh my God, Jimmy Stewart was there that night, Chevy Chase. I mean, just a whole lot. And they checked their egos at the door. When they were at the White House, they were not, who they wanted to be, in Hollywood. But anyway, so here comes Edith Bunker or Gene Stapleton. And she walks up to me, and I kind of, stopped her. And she says, oh, good evening. I said, good evening. I says, before I let you in, you have to do something for me. She says, oh, sure. What's that? I said, I want you to take a step back and at the top of your lungs yell, hey, Archie, as loud as you can. Like she looked at me and she's like, didn't say it. She backed up and it echoed through the East Colonnade. She's over my right. What's going on? And I said, go have fun. But she made my night. But anyways, All in the Family was, I could tell you about every episode. Loved every episode.
Oh my God. Well, I remember watching it when I was a kid. It's amazing.
Too.
It's amazing. It's amazing what they were able to say on that show back then. So you, as a Secret Service, and I'm just curious, and if you can't answer this, I totally get it. But as a Secret Service in there, I mean, have you been to basically every square inch of that White House?
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, I could tell you spots that you probably don't want to hear about. But yeah, no, I mean from the West Wing, the obvious, the Oval, the Roosevelt Room, Situation Room. I mean, we had to know every inch of that, from the West Wing to the mansion, and there's several floors there as well that you probably can't see half of them, but and the East Wing as well. The East Wing is where our locker rooms were and where the First Lady's offices are and whatnot. So, but no, it's hasn't changed.
Probably have even bowled in the bowling alley that exists in there.
Bowling alley downstairs, the flower shop, it's all there. But what I'm kind of I don't want to say upset about, but sad about, when I was there, we kind of ran that place. I mean, there was no Jersey barricades on East and West Executive Avenues. You could come and go. You could drive in the south, behind the South grounds and whatnot, and on Pennsylvania Avenue. You can't get near that place anymore, and it's sad. I mean, I remember working 3 to 11 shifts and going out Georgetown or whatever, and meeting people and getting conversations. Hey, what do you do? I'm with the Secret Service. No, really? What do you? I said, no, I am. You want to take a tour of the White House? What? And, midnight, we're walking through the West Wing, and this is the Oval. Yeah, take pictures, no problem. We just ran the place.
No kidding.
Oh, it's so different. It's crazy right now.
That's crazy. I mean, that's pretty cool. I that's one place I have not been in Washington, D.C. Well, I've been to several of them I haven't been to, but I've been to D.C. a few times. That's a place that I definitely want to go to down the line, and I plan to one day. But
here, so I'll hook you up.
Oh, please. That would be awesome. Yeah. So what was Reagan like? I mean, you hear just incredible things about
very,
him.
very personable. Like I said, forget about politics. I became good friends with Colonel Oliver North, and I'm sure you remember the Iran-Contra hearings and whatnot. Great guy. But he'd be in the middle of whatever, and hey, did you watch the game last night? Yeah, good game. They lost. Yeah, he's a big Orioles fan. But when he was in the Naval Bethesda Hospital in Maryland for the colon cancer, I worked midnights, and my post was right outside the recovery room door. And there's an extension on where he was recovering in his room, and I would sit outside, and Mrs. Reagan and Kathy Osborne was his personal secretary he had brought in from California. The CAT team, our counter assault team, would be on the stairwell, all garbed up with their long guns and ready to go. And I'm sitting there by myself, and Mrs. Reagan would come out. You want some pizza? Yeah, I would. And I'd wave to the guys on the stairwell, give them a thumbs up. I'm eating pizza with the First Lady and Kathy. I really enjoyed myself. So one night, real quick story, about 2 o'clock in the morning, the Navy corpsmen, they would come up, and the morgue was like downstairs, but intensive care was on the same floor. And the elevator was not far from his. So I had to watch this elevator. So I became friendly with the guys, the corpsmen that would bring, sadly, the deceased bodies from intensive care down to the morgue. And you being a homicide, you got to get this. But anyways, so I come back from chow one night, and it was like maybe 1 a.m. The doors open up, and the guys are there, and they got a gurney and whatever, and they're going down. And I said, all right, good to see you guys. Take care. Within maybe 10 minutes. Again, beep, I hear the beep, I look, elevator opens up, and the 2 guys are sitting there, and they said, this is really, really sad, but, it's really, and he's stuttering. So I walk over to him, I said, are you okay? All of a sudden, his partner jumps up from under the sheet, and I screamed. I said, you son, and here comes the doors open up, the counter. Yeah. I was like, no, take it easy, everything's okay. But they got me. They got me. They set me up.
Man, what an experience. I mean, I know that there's probably there. Oh yeah. And there has to be some sort of a level of secrecy, because you are privy, or you're standing nearby, and you can't help but listen. I mean, you can't help but hear what's being talked about from time to time. And you've heard things that just nobody knows still to this day, I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, with our clearances and whatnot, they're up there good. So you're absolutely right. But the training was great. I mean, I come in right after Reagan was shot, so I can tell you anything you want to know about the attempted assassination, because our boot camps, we tore that whole thing apart, and everything went wrong, from communications to, McCarthy sitting there with his Uzi and flapping in the and whatnot. But it was quite a scene. I mean, Hinckley was, he had every round hit somebody, and he used these 22 caliber bullets that were mercury loaded tips. And thankfully the round that Reagan caught exploded on impact, hit the door, and then lodged under his arm. He didn't even know he got hit. I think it was Jack Parr, threw him in the car and jumped on him, and he thought he broke his ribs from Jack jumping on him. In fact, when he sits up, he started spitting up blood, and they you couldn't get over the air. The radio communications were so chaotic, and the president, they ended up going. They called GW and said, "We're going over here." I think it was like a 6 minute, maybe 4 minutes, that nobody knew where the president of the United States was, which is unheard of. So, you couldn't get through on any radio contact or anything. So, so we ended up going to GW, and of course, the funny line when he's getting ready to go under, he looks up and he says, "Hope you guys are all Republicans." And they put him out. But what a great man. He was just, like I said, I traveled with him. I was on an advance team for a while. So I would go out with the counter snipers, the counter assault team, K9, depending on where he was speaking, and we make the place sterile and close it up and wait for his arrival. And I had a riot. I mean, I went to little like Davenport, Iowa, and on the marquees, welcome President Reagan, Secret Service. I mean, they were. It's such a prestigious agency. Why I transferred or asked for a transfer? I had a couple of colleagues went over to the U.S. Marshals, and same thing. Hey, you got to come to the U.S. Marshals. We're in the fugitive business now. We're chasing people around the world. And I said, "What's a U.S. Marshal?" I really didn't know. And so I was convinced. I was able to get back to New York. So I went ahead and threw my name in the hat and was interviewed and did all the testing and whatnot. And my first stop was Brooklyn, New York, which was a nightmare.
So you still had to do the testing and stuff when you're moving from one to the other, huh?
Well, it's a little easier. Yeah, you're not applying from outside, so all the background, all the stuff is done already. Right. It was a little easier. It was almost a lateral transfer. It took me a few months before I was able to go. Probably about 6 months, I think. Yeah. So I ended up in Brooklyn, New York, the Eastern District, and that's where I started.
And I'm sure if they needed a reference, they could have just asked the president, and that would have probably paved the way a little bit.
Well, the Secret Service, and unfortunately, I was in the reserves at the time with the Navy, and I had to come out because they don't allow you to be in the reserves or even the inactive reserves. The Marshal Service, yes, but not the Secret Service. So yeah, they look good on a resume.
Absolutely. So you do your training, you get into the U.S. Marshals, and then kind of you go to Brooklyn. You say that's your first spot, which I mean that's got to be a dream for you. I mean, New York City's the bomb anyway. Really, I love it. So I'm sure you wanted to get. That's like a dream place for you, right? Yeah. Well, you hit the ground running. That's for sure. I mean, it's not. The U.S. Marshal Service, as you know, it's the oldest federal law enforcement agency in this country. 1789, George Washington appointed the first 13 U.S. Marshals. So we're the oldest agency. It's such a storied agency, Jason. I mean, people don't know. You got the Bureau, the FBI out there with 28,000 agents. We've got 4,000. I mean, so put that into perspective. We always do more with less. But in the variety of law enforcement that the U.S. Marshal Service does, is phenomenal. I mean, from the witness protection program to, I know they're protecting the Supreme Court justices now and the judicial folks and whatnot. We have the asset seizure program. Any money that comes in, anything that's seized, from fast cars to big houses, we control and do all that. Of course, the investigative operations division, which I'm a little prejudiced. I mean, that's where I spent my whole career in the fugitive program. So when I got to Brooklyn, I had to rotate through these other divisions. You had to do a couple of weeks in the witness protection program. You had to do a variety of different things. So when I got into the fugitive program, the boss at the time, he was an Italian guy from Brooklyn, and we kind of hit it off. But he kept me in the warrant squad, and I was one of the lucky ones in the entire agency. I never left. I did the rotating stuff for about a year, transporting prisoners. I was with John Gotti back in 1992. They pulled me off the street. I transported him, Sammy, and Frankie the whole time he was on trial in 92. I can tell you some crazy stories with him. But and then I never left the warrant squad. So I got pretty lucky, and I spent pretty much my whole career in hunting violent felony fugitives, terrorists, murderers, rapists, arsonists, gun runners, the worst of the worst. Yeah. I mean, that's got to be within the U.S. And I'm just guessing. That's got to be within the U.S. Marshals. I mean, I know that everybody that I've talked to over all these years of being in law enforcement, everybody, I want to be a U.S. Marshal. I want to chase guys and get the fugitives and stuff. But man, that's got to be the most coveted position within the U.S. Marshals, I'm guessing. Is that right?
Oh, people, they knock your door down to try to come into that division. Yeah, definitely. I mean, don't get me wrong. There are others that just want to, do their time, transport prisoners, go to court, work in these other divisions and whatnot. But the investigative operations division, what I did in the warrant squads, especially now, post 9/11, the government, in fact, the Congress felt it necessary that we look in our own backyards, the FBI focusing on domestic terrorism, and rightfully so. They mandated us to establish permanent fugitive task forces throughout the country. So the New York, New Jersey Regional Fugitive Task Force, where I was the commander, that was the flagship or the model, if you will. And it's, we hit the ground running, and they had specific language in their mandate that said, and they listed them, target, terrorist, murderers, just the ones I listed. And so we weren't going after, we weren't going after deadbeat dads or turnstile jumpers. We were going after some pretty violent people, all of them averaging anywhere from 4 to 6 prior arrests. And to put this into perspective a little bit, I mean, my task force here in New York, we were averaging anywhere from 100 to 110 arrests a week, just in my region alone, of violent people. Think of those numbers. I mean, the Marshal Service, on an average yearly, arrest about anywhere from 80 to 100,000 violent felony fugitives across this country. It's and they wonder why the jails are bulging. I mean, it's crazy the amount of people that they, and their task forces. We now have 8 regional fugitive task forces throughout the country, and of course around the ground in several countries overseas as well. So it's very hard to stay on the run, Jason. I always say you can run, but you can't hide. When you run, you only go to jail tired. Yeah,
that's a good saying. And I'll tell you something, Lenny, and you already know this, but the technology of today is absolutely, I mean, and you didn't even have that back then, and you guys were still killing it. You know what I mean? Which is really a testament to your guys' work ethic and so forth. And I will say this just real quick, on any police department throughout this country, your all-stars are in those task force. I mean, the task force that exist, and I think you can mention how did these task force actually originate? You said yourself you're the flagship, so you were kind of the first of all of this to happen because of the money after 9/11, right?
Right. Well, we were the model and flagship for the rest of the country. Los Angeles, they were stood up probably about 6 to 8 months after we were. Chicago, DC area, Florida, Caribbean, the Gulf Coast. Now they're in the Carolinas. So they're, Lone Star in Texas. So they're we're all over the country right now. But it was, within the Marshal Service, like I said earlier, you kind of, if you worked in a district, even though you're in the warrant squad, they're going to pull you to do other things. I mean, I deployed for the Rodney King riots for 2 weeks out there. I was down in Hurricane Katrina for 3 weeks. When the shuttle crashed in Texas, we were down there picking up debris. I mean, so they use us for a lot of different things. So when Congress mandated the U.S. Marshals to establish permanent tasks for you, they can't pull you. I worked in New York and New Jersey was my task force, but I answered to Washington, D.C., our headquarters. I didn't answer to a local presidential appointed U.S. Marshals. There's 94 districts in this country. Every one of them is headed by a presidential appointed U.S. Marshal that usually comes and goes with the administration. Everyone else comes up through the ranks to the chief. Chief deputy is the highest ranking, U.S. Marshal. So having, being permanently assigned to a task force was great. And bringing the state and locals on board, I started with 3 offices. We had about probably 30 investigators from maybe 10 different, agencies. And right now, and when I left, there was about 380 full-time investigators from over 90 different federal, state, and local agencies. Think about that. We're operating out of 13 offices. Everyone working together at the speed of the internet. You talk about technology. I always like to say I like to talk about our trade craft, not teach it. But our electronic surveillance units, our technical operations group, our financial surveillance units, these guys and these men and women, they're hitting on all cylinders. I mean, they are out there doing God's work. And I'll tell you what, 7 days a week, holidays, weekends, they don't sleep. And thankfully they're around. So people, as George Orwell once said, people sleep peaceably in their beds at night because rough men stand ready to do violence on their behalf. Well, these are the men and women that are out there doing God's work and keeping our communities a safe place.
Yeah. Tulsa police had as a fugitive warrant unit as well. And they just caught a murder suspect for me yesterday. There's people that are always like, hey, don't you need to get with them and tell them. I don't interfere. They know what they're doing. They find people that don't want to be found, and they're exceptionally good at it. And I let them do what they need to do. Like, if you need me to do something, let me know. But I'll give a shout out to Gene Watkins, who's one of the supervisors here in Tulsa, and I have no doubt that he's a fan of you as well, Lenny. So you do this. You're doing your thing there. You have elevated up the ranks. Did you pretty much stay in that area your whole career of U.S. Marshals? Yes. New York. I was in New York. I had the task force we were stood up in May of 2002, right after 9/11. And until I retired a few years back, I never left. I was in New York. It was the New York, New Jersey Regional Task Force. Which has got to be an incredible area to work because that city is so big. It's 8.5 million people or 8 million people in New York City alone. Concrete jungle. Yeah. And listen, I didn't live there, but my opinion of it is I love it. I love New York. And I'm sure that's got to be challenging. Every time I've had an experience with NYPD, I really look up to them. There are a lot of just superstars that work at NYPD. Believe me, they're awesome agency, consummate professionals as well. They're just incredible. So while you were there, you elevate up through the ranks, and how did that show U.S. Marshals kind of come about? Well, here's a great story for you, Jason. I'm a little busy in New York. We're hitting on all cylinders, 100 miles an hour. I get a call from our public affairs office, said these two producers in New York are looking to talk to you. And I said, well, I'm a little busy. Give them my number and I'll get back to them. So I avoided them. I just didn't have time to entertain any, requests and whatnot. So one day, this person that worked for me, she says, there's a couple of guys at the door. They wanted to talk to you. They're producers. And I said, who is it? And then they said the name. I said, these guys have been calling me. I said, all right, bring them in, put them in the conference room. So I go in, I sit down. And they're, hyper, can't sit still. Oh, thank you so much. And, and the one guy says to me, he looks at me and says, this is a parole office, right? And I said, well, parole is here, but there's 89 other agencies as well. And he looked at the other guy and he says, we hit the mother load. He goes, so they give me this concept. Here's what we'd like to do, blah, blah, blah. I said, okay. I said, I'll get back to you. So I called the chief public affairs in D.C. and I tell him, and he said, oh, this is great. He said, what a wonderful way to show the American taxpayers on how some of their money's being spent. I said, are you crazy? I said, I'm so busy. I said, I don't have time to do all this craziness. So I lost. They sent over the producer from A&E, Laura Fleury. She was great. I get introduced to her. And then, of course, the production folks come in. And, 62 episodes later and 3 seasons, I was never home. It was insane. You've been in front of the camera enough and shot some shows where it's hectic. Pickups alone on the weekends and oh geez, we did this and we had a little bit of editorial control. So when these episodes would come out, excuse me, I'd get called into their office in Manhattan, have to sit down and go through and post, look at everything. And then these episodes would go to DC and our general counsel, the attorneys would look at it. My division folks would look at it, public affairs. It was a process. And then finally it would go to air, would, come back and they'd do the color and music, all the lovely stuff. And, it was a very positive show for us. I was a human punching bag, but it was good. Our recruiting lines were ringing off the hook and nobody knew what a U.S. Marshal was and kind of put us on the map a little bit. We batted 1,000. We made an arrest in every episode. So, and it was good. It was really, and it kind of blossomed for me after that. I've done several other shows and which was great because as Brian Dennehy once told me, he said, good. He said, now you can yell cut in the middle of a shootout. I said, you got a point there, Brian. Yeah. So. Yeah, that's interesting. So what a lot of people don't realize is that I'm sure you didn't get paid to be a part of that show either.
No.
We don't get paid. The agencies don't make any money to do that. And one of the main reasons for it, and I'm sure that they sold it like this to you guys as well, it was recruitment. That's especially now. I mean, especially now with, not many people really wanting to do this profession because of the media, their portrayal of law enforcement, so to speak. So. Yeah. So I'm also kind of a little bit surprised that, and I love the fact that the federal government and were interested in at least allowing this to happen. It was such a huge success. Are you surprised that it's never really returned, or is there a reason why it never did?
They want to return it now. I've been on the phone with A&E and others, and fingers crossed, maybe we'll I won't be involved. Well, I will be, but not on camera, I don't think. But anyways, I was a little surprised. It's airing right now in 14 countries. It's funny because they're running reruns and being on television, it's, you can always tell when it's in reruns because somebody will pop up and say, hey, I recognize you from that show. So I'm saying I must be in reruns again. But I'm a little surprised. I mean, it was, successful for the agency. And it was a positive show. I mean, look at, I would rather talk somebody down than we're not that Rambo, let's go shoot everybody up and kind of an agency. We're just looking for you and we don't care what you did. And let's all go home safe tonight, to include the bad guy. But, we had 5 camera crews. It was a hectic and busy time. There were some things that went on that didn't make it to episodes, but nothing bad. I mean, it's just, you're going 100 miles an hour. And, when human instincts turn into animal instincts and you're chasing these people that don't want to go to jail, it's a tough job. I mean, the training, I was a huge proponent of training. We trained all the time, close quarter combat, room clearing, weapons efficiency. I mean, you got to be on top of your game. And coming from all walks of life, Jason, as you know, federal, state, and local, everyone's trained differently. So everybody needs to be on the same sheet of music. When you're hitting a place at dark 30 and you're going after a guy that just, committed a triple homicide, if you don't think he wants to kill you to go to jail, you better get another job. So, we've been in shooting, sadly. I mean, I remember it was 2012 or 13. We set a record that nobody liked setting. We had more task force officers killed in the line of duty than in our, at the time, 230-year existence. And it was sad, but the director at the time, Stacy Hilton, she was awesome. She had, here's how much money you need. We need to train. And we did. I mean, we hit the ground running and we saved lives. The equipment's important, state-of-the-art stuff, ballistic shields, everything was afforded to the state and locals, as well as our federal partners. And we were safe. I remember we trained this one deputy sheriff in New Jersey, and they hit a place at 5 o'clock in the morning. Guy didn't come out, but he sent 4 rounds through the door. The first round hit him right in his ballistic shield, right in the glass. So think about that. He was just recently trained. He had his ballistic shield with him. Sadly, when it hit him, he turned and he caught a round in his side. And he was fine. He was, in fact, he went back to work. But, training is important. So I was a huge proponent of training.
Absolutely. And I personally, I got to tell you, just from my standpoint, the first 48's been on for a long time, over 20 years. And I'm shocked because you said something. You said that it was a positive experience other than there was times when you're a punching bag. So, and myself too, I've gotten some of those comments here and there, but honestly, I'm shocked that police departments aren't jumping over themselves to be a part of it. All in all, it was 99% positive with us, with the public. I mean, absolutely. I mean, Tulsa, we're a big city, but we've got a really good relationship with our community. And I think in large part, it has to do with that show, where it really, they see that we're actually real people and we actually really care. And it's kind of
right. We're not the enemy. It's not, this whole defund the police nonsense that went on and whatnot. I remember doing the show season 1 and it caught on. People were watching, especially in New York. I mean, it was taking place in New York. And I would go into the Bronx or wherever and, at dark 30 and I'd have people come up. Oh, you're the guy from that show. Who are you looking for? This guy? Oh, yeah, he's over. So, it really was. It ended up being a very positive show for us. I don't think I had one incident. I was close once. I thought a guy was getting a little crazy at a McDonald's drive-through, but he ended up wanting to take a picture with us. But, you've been there, done that. I get it. But, police departments, the police commissioner, Commissioner Kelly here in New York, great guy. He loved us. I had 28, still do, 28 detectives, 3 sergeants and a lieutenant on our task force. And, he was pulling back from other federal task forces, bank robbery task force and whatnot back in the day. But he left everyone as part of our task force. He loved us. And, we're the – look, we don't run to the microphone to announce the arrest of. We don't care. Look, mention us. Thank you, but we're on to the next 50 cases. I mean, these guys are holding 50, 100 cases apiece, violent people. So we're too busy for all that stuff. And it's just that we always do more with less, and it's such a great agency. And I'm honored to be was part of it because it's such a storied agency. So
it really is. And you're a part of it for life, for sure. It's in your DNA. So from there, and you've been to the U.S. Marshal Museum in Fort Smith, and what an epic place. They did a first-rate job on that museum. It's incredible. So, but anyways, I want to digress real quick. I want to mention just briefly, you said something about John Gotti. And there's kind of a funny story that I at least want you to mention about that, where you were kind of hanging out with him a little bit, transporting him and so forth. What is that story?
Well, the Dapper Don, Sammy the Bull Gravano, Franco Lacazia, 3 of them are on trial in 1992. I got pulled off the streets to escort him from the Metropolitan Correctional Center in Manhattan, which is on one end of the Brooklyn Bridge, over the Brooklyn Bridge into the Brooklyn Federal Courthouse every day for the 3 months or so he was on trial. So I would take my little motorcade in at 6 a.m. I'd go up to the 3rd floor by myself. The 3 of them would be sitting there dressed, ready to go, cuff them up and whatnot. John always had something funny to say. Hey, Lenny, you got change for 100? Yeah, it's great, John. He said that yesterday. So, he is what he is, right? I mean, he's a character. So we're on the elevator, fooling around all the time, going down to 1. Sammy, hey, you were a boxer. You look like a fighter. I said, no, Sammy, I'm a lover. I'm not a fighter. Gotti's elbowing him in the back, shut up. It's just that going over to Brooklyn Bridge. Hey, there's a Little Italy. I know some people down there. Why don't we go get breakfast? Okay, John. Yeah. So one day I show up and I'm upstairs. I walk in, Frank's sitting there, John's sitting there, quiet as a church mouse. There's no Sammy. I don't say nothing. I get on the elevator, hit the button, going down to 1. I got the cavalry downstairs. So now I'm going to be the funny guy, right? So I turn around, I look at John, I said, where's Sammy? What is he, a rat now? If Looks could have killed, I had no idea the night before the FBI brings him on board Team USA. If Looks could have killed, I'd have been dead on that elevator. Of course, the next day, front page of every newspaper. I was like, oh my God. So fast forward.
Did John know? Did he know?
Oh, 100% he knew. Are you kidding me? Yes.
No. So he did before you even said that. Oh,
yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Oh, yeah. No, they knew. Yeah. I didn't know. I didn't care. I'm just here to give you a ride across the bridge. But so he's sentenced. He's convicted. He's sentenced. He's going to Merriam, Illinois, and then on to Colorado. He was supposed to. Sadly, he died in prison. But so I got him in the back of my car. We go up to a nondescript location where our Con Air flies in, our Boeing 747. They pick up all the federal prisoners from the districts in the area, and they're designated throughout the country in the federal system, as you know. So John's in the back. We pull in. There's the bird sitting there. I said, John, sit still. Let everybody load. And he's quiet. He's not saying anything. He's not the funny. I guess he's figuring, okay, it's over. The Dapper Don, he's done. So the other districts load. We're the last one to get out. I take him by myself. We're walking up to the aircraft, and he's shaking like this, Jason. He sounded like the ghost of Christmas past. I mean, he was just, nervous as could be. And I kind of like, what do I say to the guy? Right. So we get up to the foot of the aircraft. I know the guy on board, Brian. Hey, here's John Gotti. Here's his medical records. So, what do you say? Have a nice flight. I don't even remember what I said to him, but I do remember I turned away. He took about 3 steps up the ladder, and I hear, hey, Lenny. I turn around. I said, yeah, John. He says, you think it's too late to say I'm sorry? That's the last I heard from John Guy. You know why he was shaking? Not because where he was going. He never flew a day in his life.
Really?
He was scared to death to get on that aircraft. And that was by a family member of his. So, yeah, he always took the train. He never flew. He didn't care where he was going. He didn't want to get on board that airplane, but he was scared. Believe me, he was scared.
You dealt with a lot of the mafia, probably individuals from every one of the 5 crime families there in New York City. What was your take about? I mean, how did they treat you in return?
Most of them not bad. Most of them, the old timers, the old school guys. I had no problems with any of them. Sonny Francesi, I arrested him probably 8 times. He always violated his parole. Tommy Karate, remember Tommy Patera? I don't know if you remember. He had the mob burial grounds on Staten Island. What he would do is chop his victims up in a bathtub in his house, and the most grotesque, crazy nonsense I've ever heard of. And he gets arrested. We were on 4th Avenue in Brooklyn. And, he called him Tommy Karate for a reason. He tried to fight, but it didn't last too long. So, but he was a sick guy. He'd be downstairs on a court visit, and I'd walk by, and he knew who I was. And Lenny, yeah, Tom, I miss my bathtub. And his eyes would go like this. And, so there's some of them are a little vicious, but crazy animals, if you will. But most of the old school guys, I was with Gigante, the Chin. He was in the hospital. I don't know if you remember him. He was the guy that got the rap, that he'd have his bathrobe on and an umbrella on a sunny day in Manhattan, and he was crazy. Genovese Capo, he was the boss in Manhattan. So I was with him in the hospital and treated me like, again, it's reciprocal, right? I treat them with respect until something. Yeah. I'm out chasing somebody. If you hide on me, if you got a gun, you point it in my face, we're gonna, there's gonna be problems. Most of the time, I had one guy, he was playing, adult hide and seek, and his 3-year-old's in a crib, and he's pointing to the closet, and sure enough, he's in a closet with a gun, in his underwear. So you ride like you hide. He went to court in his underwear. Sorry, pal. You could have different, but most of the time, yes, we've been in shootings. Sadly, we've had people have been shot and whatnot, and but that comes with the territory. Like I said, training is important, and we try to keep everybody safe and sound.
Yeah, somebody was asking me if you handled anything with the Iceman or Kuklinski, and you probably did. You ever deal with him?
No, I know who he is. No, I did not have any dealings. Somebody said, I think somebody asked me where I was on 9/11. That's a quick story for you. My daughter was 4 days old. My daughter was born September 7th, so I was actually on leave. I was home. It was Monday night. The Giants were playing the Denver Broncos, and I had baby duty. My wife was sleeping, and the Giants lost to Denver. I was upset. So I go to sleep, and the next thing I remember is my wife is shaking me, crying the next morning, and I thought something happened to our daughter, and I pop up. I said, "What's the matter?" She said, "A plane just hit the World Trade Center." I said, "What the hell are you waking me up for?" I'm tired. And she puts the television on. Here comes the second plane. My beeper is how old my pager was going off. House phone was ringing. And I kissed her on my daughter on the forehead, and I apologized for bringing her into this crazy world. And I was gone. Went into the city. We actually, U.S. Marshals took over all level 4 airports at that point. So I was a supervisor at JFK Airport, trying to straighten things out there for about a month. And then I get a call from my bosses in D.C., and they said to me, "You got to come down." I said, "I'm a little busy, boss. I don't know if you heard, a couple planes hit the." Mm-hmm. He said, "No." So he goes, "You need to come in. We got to meet some people." So I get scooped off in this blacked out van into the bowels of the Department of Justice, and I was right on to a military intelligence team, and they were now in the manhunting business, so they had to pick on somebody in the Department of Justice that chased people, and I was the lucky chosen one. So I was, not to discuss too much detail, but worked with a lot of great people. You talk about warriors. These are the folks that, they were in Fallujah before the war started, if you know what I mean. So they, what a great group, looking at high value targets, helping out as best as I could. And making a lot of sense to these brainiacs, if you will. They would probably kill you in about 2 seconds. But a great group of people from all walks of life, Green Berets, SEAL Team 6. I mean, I can go on and on. And so I was there, spent a lot of my time at a spot in Virginia, deployed. I was in Afghanistan, doing some fun stuff over there. So it was an interesting time. My daughter today, she's graduated from college, and she never lets me forget about, oh, you weren't there for this. Oh yeah, you didn't go to that because of, I'm singing to the choir. I get it, but I was a little busy, honey.
Yeah.
So that's where it was on 9/11. Somebody had asked that question.
Have you written a book, or have you thought about it?
Thought about it, but I'm a humble look.
I know, but it's just God. Just
the thing I do. It's not. We're doing something we like. I enjoyed my 3 decades chasing bad people across the globe. And you arrest some homicide suspect, as you do every day. You just save somebody else's life, and they don't even know it. So that's where you get satisfaction from, not from writing books and things of that nature.
It really is. I'll tell you what, you have to have moments where you're just sitting there going, "My gosh, I came from Utica, New York," and not that that's a bad thing, but my gosh, I mean, you the stuff that you have seen, done, the people you've met, it's just incredible, really. It honestly is. Now, I'm going to probably jump around here just real quick, because I do want to talk about the other shows that you were a part of, et cetera, and maybe what your future holds. Not only have you done that, you basically, hey, out of curiosity, hey, what would your advice be to somebody wanting to be a U.S. Marshal today, or getting into the feds, or what's the best agent you've ever seen as far as what you're looking for?
Well, great question. I sat on the interview panel for 7 years in New York City. So I was, interviewing candidates that would come in, and it was a structured interview. I think it still is. But afterwards, once they got through the first half of the interview and did all this stuff, and they got the blessing, they came back in for for things where we would kind of put them in hypothetical situations and whatnot. And I always looked for I had Rambo would come in and kill everybody, and then I had somebody that's been on the job that would not protect themselves or their partners if it was a life-threatening situation. So you get from one extreme to the other. Here's what I looked for. You never get a second chance at a first impression. So as soon as you walk through the door, you're shaking hands, you're being told to sit down, you're polite and the yes, no's, and you're thinking safety. You're not going to, because I would put them in hypotheticals, stuff that I've been involved in. I'm in the Bronx one night going after a guy, and we hit the door. He actually answers the door. We've arrested him before we know him. He runs to the back bedroom, so we get in there. He's in the bedroom. He's in his underwear. Get dressed. I forgot his name. And out of the closet comes probably a 12-year-old little girl holding a water pistol, pointing it at us, saying, "You better let my daddy go, or I'm going to kill you." So, you've identified it. It's a water pistol, and I'm trying to befriend her. I'm talking her down. And we actually, at the end of it, we were kind of laughing. He was kind of laughing. But so I would put the candidates into that situation and say, and all of a sudden the closet opens up and there's a 13-year-old girl standing there with a gun saying, "Let my daddy go. What are you going to do?" And you would get a variety of different answers. "Oh, you got to kill her. She got a gun." Or I don't know. I said, "Well, what are you going to do? She's pointing a gun at you. She, if you don't let her father go, she's going to kill you. Who are your partner?" I can't shoot her. I just can't. Oh, bang. She just killed your partner. Now you need to go, or I would get, "Oh yeah, you got to kill her." And I said, "Well, that's nice." And the next morning in the, front of the New York Times reads, "U.S. Marshal, kills a 13-year-old with a water pistol. Now come in and explain to me what happened." So, it was a no-win situation, but you want to see how they're going to react. I'm going to look for safety. I'm going to call for backup. I'll set up a perimeter. We got all day, so barricaded suspects, even hostage situations we've been in and whatnot. It's all about, as I'm singing to the choir, I get it, but it's all about how you read and react, so to speak. And our training is very important. We're trained as SWAT officers. We don't have time to wait for a SWAT team. We do all that ourselves. So close quarter combat, room clearing, all that stuff. We're provided with state-of-the-art equipment. we certainly know how to react in life-threatening situations, and everybody wants to go home, to include the bad guy, safe. Yeah. So that's what we try to do.
Absolutely. Hey, and I wanted to make sure I mentioned this or ask this. Who was probably, and I know this is kind of a tough question for you because you've dealt with so much evil, but who out of all the people that you had chased after was probably the scariest for you?
Man, that's it.
I'm sure it's tough because you got so many.
It's tough only because, as I told you earlier, we arrested 100 to 110 people a week just in my region alone. Yeah. Cases that kind of pop out, and I've been asked this question, and I never have a great answer, but I was involved with a DC sniper case, John Muhammad and Lee Melville, if you remember them.
Yeah.
they were, because we were chasing ghosts. We had no idea. And so that was an interesting case. There was a guy out there, his name was Stefano Procopio. I don't know if you remember back in the 1980s, they blew up this train in Bologna, Italy, the Red Brigade. Killed everybody. He was the last fugitive out there. He ended up in Manhattan, so we got his case. Interesting. It was funny how it went down because we had a girlfriend of his we thought was. We get up on some. I always say I like to talk about our trade craft, not teach it, but we're looking at a phone and we had a pretty good idea. She was talking to an unknown, and it was him. So long story short, we see her traveling down from the Bronx with surveillance teams following her. She gets to a location. We're right outside Robert De Niro's restaurant in downtown Manhattan. And sure enough, here he comes out with a box. And he was a positive ID. So, all right, let's take him. He actually had a gun on him. And so he went down without incident. And I turned around, and there was a crowd of people in front of the restaurant clapping. They thought we were filming a movie. It was like, no, it's, But anyway, there's just so many. I hate to, I'm Bucky Phillips in upstate New York that shot and killed the state troopers. The escape cases, Dannemora. I mean, I could go on and on and on. It's just, as you know, there's just so many. But
so many
interesting cases. I had an old timer, an old Jewish fella from Brooklyn, New York, who was the hashish marijuana guy here in New York City in the 1980s. And I had his case for about 7 years. And there's not enough time in this program to tell you in detail how this thing went down. But what an interesting guy. His phone book alone was, if you can visualize, a tic-tac-toe board. And like in the upper left, it was 1 and 2, 3, and then in the middle, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And he would use the lines like it was a backwards L, maybe a U, maybe a square, in his phone book. And I'm like, what is all this gibberish, once he was finally arrested and cooperated? But that was, it was his phone book. Like number 1 was here, 2 was in the middle, 3, 4, 5. But he was so sophisticated, sharp guy, covered his tracks. He was on the land. He was on the run for, I want to say 9 years.
Wow.
Yeah, he was, not to throw names out there because he, he's living in a different world. But interesting cases, some of them. And then, the New York Mafia folks, the mobsters, they're sometimes funny when you catch up to those guys. Homicide suspects. I had this one guy burnt a trailer down with 5 kids in it. I think 3 of them died. It's just crazy, crazy stories. We work all the DEA indictment warrants, the Drug Enforcement Agency. So we have an MOU with them. So we work all the indicted, narcotics cases. So you talk about, some heavy, not only cartels, but these paramilitary type groups and whatnot. We had a group in New York called the 40 Thieves. I mean, they played hardball. They were hitting post offices and banks. And I ended up in Costa Rica with one guy, and they tried to ambush us. We almost got killed over there. But that's a whole other story. But again, it's what you do for a living. I mean, it's not. I couldn't work a drug case. I couldn't work a homicide case. But when it comes to finding human beings, you get pretty good at it, Jason. When you do it for a career. So.
Well, there's no doubt it's one of the most dangerous jobs that exist in law enforcement, period. You're chasing after the most dangerous people, period. No doubt about it. And like I said, they're the real all-stars. So you moved on from there, from that show, and did you end up, you just retired from that? From that must have been a difficult decision for you to retire, I'm sure.
I actually retired early. I was at they wanted to pull me down to DC, and I said, no, I'm going to stop here. Mark Burnett, he does Survivor. You know him?
Yeah. I know the name for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. His folks had called me. They wanted to bring back, at the time, John Walsh was done with America's Most Wanted. So they wanted to bring that back. They asked me to host it. So I retired early. Now, 57 is mandatory retirement for federal agents. I don't know if you know that. So 57, they kick you out, which I think is, especially in today's world, it's too young. But so I left a little early, and then this whole defund the police and we hate cops thing happened. So he put the project on a back burner, and I got a call from a production company. He says, yeah, we're doing this show concept. There were just some recently released documents, about 900 pages from the FBI about Adolf Hitler, and we're doing this show called Hunting Hitler. So I, being the smart person that I am, I said, isn't he dead? I mean, so we ended up 3 seasons. I mean, I'll tell you what, Jason, I must have fell asleep in history class, because I was fascinated. My first stop in Berlin, where there's 91 miles of tunnels under the city of Berlin. It's just unbelievable. I tell you, those Germans, they can build things, man. These 6-foot, concretes. Our bunker busters today wouldn't blow these things up. But just following his trail and what, the 3-year investigation. I work with Bob Baer. I don't know if you know Bob, former CIA. Tim Kennedy, former Green Beret, MMA fighter, good guy. Had some pretty good folks on our team. And I was fascinated. I was down in Chile. What was his name? Walter Roth invented the mobile gas chamber, killed 160,000 people. The story behind him, and interviewing folks in their 90s that just want to talk. I mean, they just want to tell their story. And I was just taken back. I had chills. I mean, you walk in the footsteps as, Adolf Hitler, you got to give the devil his due. He was a forward thinker, even though he was out of his mind. But at the end of the day, the body they had that was rolled up in carpet, supposedly shoots himself in his head. Eva Braun, takes a cyanide pill. Mm-hmm. It wasn't him. He had 9 body doubles. The one they had was 4 inches shorter than Adolf Hitler. We sent the pathologist to Russia. They've got the skeleton remains with the bullet holes. They allowed him to test it, and it came back to a 35 to 40-year-old female. They threw the guy out of the country. So they didn't even have his remains. So did he get out? Yes, he did. He ended up in South America. He lived about 6 years after the war. And we believed Eva Braun lived till almost 2000. So, fascinating story. If you're bored, Hunting Hitler, I think History Channel still airs the 3 seasons. So I did that, and then
let me ask you.
Yeah, go ahead.
You said Eva Braun lived to probably 2000.
Gerard Williams was an investigative journalist that worked with us. Great guy. He wrote the book Gray Wolf. Sadly, he died a year ago from cancer. Great guy. He knew anything you wanted to know about Hitler and the folks around him. We called Who's Who in the Zoo. We looked at everybody. He was the go-to guy, and he feels that she lived to around 2001 and actually had a daughter that we were trying to find. But they ended up, as these networks often do, they killed the show after 4 or 3 seasons.
Yeah.
But we were ready to go on. Interesting how he got out and whatnot, but I don't want to bore you to death with the
No, I think it's fascinating, actually. The whole thing, and I did watch several of those episodes back when you were airing them, and I it was fascinating. Just the amount of all the construction that they did and stuff like that. As far as, didn't they have they built things and stuff like that? What countries are we talking about in South America, like Uruguay or Uruguay or what?
He ended up in Bariloche in Argentina. Argentina was a big spot for a lot of Nazis. The rat lines, even through the Vatican. We actually went to Italy and filmed there and talked to some pretty interesting people at the Vatican on how they were, I don't want to say taking care of a lot of Nazis, but the Catholic Church. I mean, everybody's everybody's gets around too, or gets a pass, I guess, a mulligan. But the passports that were being passed out, and everybody ended up south. I mean, it's amazing the cemeteries that we were in and the swastikas and things we were finding down there. They were flooded with Nazis after post-war. You got to remember too that Stalin at the time, all the intel agencies, they were all looking for him post, when the war was over. They knew he got out. So it's just, the war's over, front page of the newspapers, Hitler's dead, and let's move on,
Wow. Well, I believe you. I certainly believe you. And somebody was asking what show this was. It's Hunting Hitler. And I think it was on History Channel, and you can go to, I think History's got an on-demand that you can literally go back and watch the episodes on there. So if I'm not mistaken, Lenny, you probably know, but
yeah, no, you're right. Yeah. Hunting Hitler. And it's still, you can definitely see it. 3 seasons we did. I forget how many episodes, but if you're into that type of history and whatnot, I'm like, I was fascinated once I hit the ground running, and the things we were uncovering and the folks we were talking to, and it was just mind-boggling. I mean, it was really interesting for me. And I'm not really, big history buff kind of, but I was for this. I enjoyed it.
I think that's fascinating. And actually, so you did that. The thing came to an end. Did that thing of doing something for John Walsh when he ended up going, he left. Yeah. Did that ever kick off? And if so, what was the name of that show?
It did not. They never. Did not? Okay. Yeah. Mark Burnett never came back with it, and they liked it. They wanted to do something, but sometimes they get a little hesitant when things aren't. Not everybody's on the same sheet of music, I guess.
Yeah. Well, you would have been the logical choice for me. I mean, you're the guy, honestly. So,
you're my new hero. I appreciate it.
But so you got no. Go ahead.
I was going to say, John Walsh, great guy. He's done a lot of good for us, and him and his son. I think now they're doing a show. So, yeah.
You also a little bit of an entrepreneur. You started a business called O Dark 30, which is for clothing. Tactical clothing, and what else do you guys sell there? Amanda, throw that website up for them.
I appreciate that. Another great story. My wife, who's in the fashion business, during COVID, they shut her office down in Manhattan. She's home, and she comes down to my office. She's got a great idea. I said, "What's that?" And I said, "Why don't we do a tactical clothing line with boots?" And I said, "Because I'm retired and I really don't want to do that." And here, I lost again, Jason. We stood up a company. It's the letter O Dark 30. I thought that was a cool name because, we all say that in the military and whatnot. Mm-hmm. And odark30.com, it's tactical clothing and whatnot, boots, and we're building it out now. And we're having fun with it. And I was out at the SHOT Show, of course, and different conventions and whatnot. And, police departments locally they love our boots, military as well. So it's taken off. It's doing well. We're new and we're learning, but something different for me. I never knew what went into standing up a business. There's a lot of moving parts, and we haven't worked for the government for 35 years. So,
yeah. Well, I applaud you for giving it a shot. I have no doubt that it's probably top-notch stuff. And odark30.com, check it out to the listeners, and especially if you're law enforcement, he's got stuff out there that I'm sure it's the best of the best, and it's probably just really well-made stuff. And give it a shot. And also, you're a member of the Las Vegas Speakers Bureau, probably other speaking things too, where people can find you, and they can find you to speak. I'm sure keynote speak or different conferences, etc. And that's something that you're still interested in doing, and you're still a part of that, right?
Yes. No, I am. A lot of schools. I get a lot of calls from colleges and whatnot. So. It's interesting because criminal justice majors, a lot of the cybersecurity stuff and whatnot. I try to stay in my swim lane, but, and you said it earlier, there's police departments that do a variety of different things. The U.S. Marshals, we get involved with a bunch of different law enforcement, jobs, if you will. And everybody wants to be in the hunting human beings, investigative operations division. And you know what? I don't blame them. I mean, it's a great job. I always said it's the best job in law enforcement. I'm not making cases. I'm not sitting on trial for 6 months. No offense to you, the homicide folks that you're still working, but you got a tough job. I mean, you got a much tougher, job than I do. I'm chasing human beings. I mean, it's really, we call it adult hide and seek, but and there's skill craft. I mean, there's things that you need to do as a fugitive investigator that investigators that do other things really. And like I said earlier, I couldn't do a DEA case or a bank robbery case. I wouldn't know the first thing. But when you're trained like our folks are to find human beings when they don't want to be caught, you become pretty good at it because you do it you're doing it every day. So it's a great job, especially in areas like here in New York and bigger metropolitan cities. These people, they try to hide in plain sight, and it's kind of comical, some of the cases you work. And you think by having like 5, throwaway phones that you're safe. And we're so way ahead of the curve on this technology. And, our tech guys, we're training the military in a lot of these areas, which is awesome. So it's good stuff. It's evolving as we speak, technology and whatnot, but we do stay ahead of the curve with all that stuff. So
So Dark 30, if you need Lenny, if you're looking for a speaker, there's some of his clothing line right there. If you're looking for a speaker, I don't know how you could miss with him. I mean, he's got all kinds of things that he could talk about. He would definitely entertain your people. And I love that, man. I'm on to tell you the truth, Lenny, I'm on the committee for the Homicide Investigators of Texas, and that's saying something, buddy. I'm an Okie, and they've got me a part of it. I was supposed to mention this at the beginning, and I forgot. So if you're law enforcement and you're still here, and you better be here because he's somebody to listen to. But we've got our conference coming up in March, so consider us, and maybe we'll consider you, Lenny, for down the line and have you come and speak at that. That would be awesome. The other thing I wanted to just briefly, because I know we're coming to an end here, is there anything else that you really want to talk about that I don't care what it is, but I'm sure that you've got great things. You've got so many stories, man. Is there anything that I have missed or something that really we need to? I do have a question. You got anything in the works right now that you're even allowed to speak about? Because if you're not allowed to speak about it, we'll keep it off under the radar.
I mean, I got 2 NDAs going, a couple of different projects that I can't say can't give away the candy store, but Jay, I stay in my swim lane, Jason. The crime space is coming back, thankfully, on television. My wife will sit in bed till 2:00 in the morning and watch cop shows, and I'm like, honey, please, enough. They love watching true crime. I get it. I mean, it's interesting stuff, but nothing. I mean, actually, I'm consulting. I can tell you this on the new Yellowstone project that's coming out, a spinoff of Yellowstone. One of the characters, Luke Grimes, who's a country singer. He plays a U.S. Marshal now. So I got a call the other day, and I'm in contract, waiting on a contract for that gig. So I'll help him out and try to get him to shoot straight when he's got to take somebody out in Wyoming. But a couple other TV projects, and I do, and I've been helping out a little bit between us and whoever's listening with the Border Czar and they're picking my brain a little bit about a task force concept and how things have been successful with the U.S. Marshals and what we've done. And no sense in Mr. Homan reinventing the wheel, but I'm on their side, and I'll help as much as I can, which I have been for several months. And so I keep my finger on the pulse, Jason. Good. I'm getting old, but I'm still here.
Do you still live in the New York region, New York City area?
I do. Yes, we're still here.
If I ever find myself up there, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to let you know, and then me, you, and Dominic Polifrone. I don't know if you know Dominic. We're going to go. We maybe need to have to go to the Bronx, and he says it's the best Italian food ever is up in the Bronx. And he's the guy. He's the ATF guy that was responsible for getting the Iceman. And so he's good people.
I know.
Good people.
Well, you ever come to New York? Well, I'll find you first of all. But if you don't, call me. But you better get a hold of me. I'll take you to a couple of spots that I know where he's going up in the Bronx. But I got a couple of spots in Manhattan I think you'll like too, and Brooklyn too.
Done. We'll do it. Hey, listen, man, I can't thank you enough. You can find him on Twitter or X. You feel free to follow him. Like I said, if you had a good question for him, I have no doubt in my mind he'd probably respond to you. And just man, you're just a good person, Lenny. And I appreciate the fact that now I know you. I'm going to call you my friend, and I really, really appreciate knowing you. You're one of those guys that I look up to in this world. Believe me. You kept saying about how dangerous or how hard my job was, buddy. I might get a paper clip or a paper cut at work. You know what I mean?
Stop, Jason. Look, I salute you and your folks every single day. Are you kidding me? The job you have to do, the things you have to see, the people you have to please. and then
We
you got to
appreciate
solve
it.
a case. You're the
We
best in
appreciate
business, and I do.
Thanks,
I support
buddy.
all you guys. Yeah.
Thank you, buddy.
Great work.
All right, everybody.
I got to thank Amanda over here. She's been flooding us with questions, but I answered her 9/11 thing, so I'll give a shout out to Amanda.
No, that's a good question. Actually, I'm glad you answered that. That's interesting story. Lenny, thank you very much. I can't thank you enough. Your time is valuable. And ladies and gentlemen, once again, I want you to consider Lenny for speaking. Watch Hunting Hitler on the History Channel. It's on demand. Check it out. I'm going to look forward to the work that you're going to be doing on this Yellowstone thing. If they're looking for an old homicide detective, you can mention my name. That's fine with me. Mo Plenty,
old, but I'll mention your name.
Mo Plenty is a part of that show. He's actually a fan of the first 48. And
there you go. Yeah, and maybe we'll bring back another U.S. Marshal show. You never know.
Hey, I'll be watching, and I'll definitely be a fan of it for sure. Can't thank you enough. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for being here. You know that this show is not a show without you, and it means the world to me, and it means the world to Lenny. Lenny, don't click off of here. After we spin out, I'm going to talk to you briefly, and then I want everybody to tell your family to watch this episode. Watch any of the other episodes on my YouTube page, Detective Jason White. We've got 58 other incredible episodes. I'm going to send you a link of this, Lenny, when we're done.
Please
and like I said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you again, everybody. Next week, I'm working on it, but we'll have an epic guest. I'm kind of in the middle of getting them to agree. We're going to get them on here. It'll be great. And so next week, we'll be here live again. And until then, take us out, Amanda.